Welcome back. This is Exopolitics Radio. I'm your host, Alfred Weber. Exopolitics Radio is a public affairs radio program on exopolitics, the new political science of outer space, the science of relations among intelligent civilizations in the multiverse. Exopolitics Radio audio archives are free and open as a service to the public 24/7 at exopoliticsradio.org. Exopolitics Radio is a listener-sponsored radio station, and we welcome your voluntary listener contributions at exopoliticsradio.org. And today we have a very special 2-hour program with an extraordinary being and guest, Ms. Laura Magdalena Eisenhower, who in the first hour, as a whistleblower on a secret Mars colony, will expose aspects of the technologies and the manipulation and personalities around her attempted recruitment into being part of a secret Mars colony. And in the second hour, in an in-depth interview, we'll explore the divine feminine. Thank you very much for listening to this very, very unusual and extraordinary opening to a new dimension and a new gateway to human reality. Thank you. And today we have a special program, a special 2-hour program with a very special guest, and an extraordinary breakthrough story for our times, I do believe. And we're with Ms. Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's really good to have you as a guest on Exopolitics Radio, and I know that you have written an extensive statement about the subject matter of our program, and our listeners can go either to your Facebook page, or they can go to your website. Could you give your website?
Yes, it's Cosmic Gaia, COSMICGAIA 2012.com.
And we'll also have an introduction to that statement at www.exopolitics.com. And as well, there's a corroboratory statement by your colleague, Kylia Light, which corroborates everything that you are sharing in the paper and that you will be sharing today in the radio program. And that statement is also an introduction to it at exopolitics.com, which then links to Kylia Light's website. And as well, there's a major article at examiner.com that will be published about all of this as an initial launch of the revelations that Laura, as a whistleblower of a secret Mars colony project that we'll be talking about in this first hour, is making today. So, Laura, you're you're a relative of former President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and I wondered if you could share with our audience exactly what your relationship with him is and how that figured in the formation of your consciousness and in your mission.
Okay, yes. Well, President Eisenhower was my great-grandfather, and I never knew him, but I did have a very strong connection with him. Spent a lot of time with my family, was able to meet Mamie when she lived at the farm the last few years of her life, which I remember very well. And was just spent a lot of time on the farm, and my mom and my aunts and uncles just really just emanate the spirit of his life and do a lot of work that I was always exposed to. So very much a part of my upbringing. And at a young age, I really felt an amazing connection to him. We're both Libras, and I could really tune into his mission, and I just felt just an unbelievable ability to just have access to his presence in my life. And that was one of the few out of anything on a spirit contact level besides higher beings that like Christ and source energy that I could really contact for guidance as I was awakening to a massive calling in my life that I struggled with. And so it's like I could really see where the planet was at, and I was really tapping into frequencies and parasitic energies of the alien nature that were really affecting our ability to create this shift in the most harmless way to humanity and the environment. And I could recognize that there was a number of different tracks that one could go down. Ones that are really not immediate to one's senses. It's very hard to really spot them. And what I really learned growing up was about, just the war and Hitler, how defeating these powerful energies was really something in a very ancient way, connected to archetypes, connected to a whole sort of long agenda to destroy, an organic path that nature itself is wishing to create as divine will, and just really something deep within us that we're all meant to be co-creating together. And so I really started to understand about negative technologies and mind control, and I could sort of tell when I was in a room with people, something that felt more like a CD player or people being programmed to act in a certain way compared to a feeling of something that was real and a lot more connected to a force and an energy that has been buried and forgotten, which I felt I carried in my being. So growing up, I felt very suffocated and very confused and very it's something I can barely put into words, and that's why a lot of this is better to read, in detail form. But so as I was becoming more and more aware of it and my path was unfolding, it became clear that I was going to be facing the people and the agendas that were behind this, what I call false matrix, and a programming to really have control over the human race and put us in a sort of amnesia about really who we are and what we're made of. And so I was kind of born really merged with what that means and what that is on a divine blueprint level. I call it sacred union, the merging in the marriage of polarities within the self. And I could just see, energetically that there was a huge block that were just absolutely keeping these things pulled apart, so that duality in religion was just kind of guiding people to feel separate and feel fearful, and I just wouldn't have it. It just really made me angry. And my father was even a Catholic priest, so I was exposed to the church. After him and my mom broke up, he became a priest, and he was a very educated man, speaks 7 languages, born in Egypt, and it was kind of his upbringing to be Catholic. But as him and I got to know each other, he really did see a lot of stuff that I was seeing, and is really a force of change in that institution. But there's just a lot happening at a young age as far as being a part of the Eisenhower family and having Catholicism, and then really being aware of something that was hidden to a lot of people that I knew that I was here to uncover and awaken, while I was also uncovering and exposing these technologies and these agendas that have been really messing with my path and the whole human race as far as I'm concerned. So I really felt like a unified field, that I was really doing this on behalf of all of us, that, you know, some are aware and some aren't, but, you know, it was a very heavy duty mission that I felt, starting probably at the age of 8. So in order to access, like what I was going to do about it, I had to really just look at nature and understand that what I was going to go through was very much like the cycles of nature, which is to go into the earth and go into the depths, plant seeds and grow like a tree and just, you know, death, regeneration, and all these different things that we see in nature was something I was embarking on, kind of carrying this Venus force energy that I later discovered was as heavy duty as in the Mayan calendar creating transits, which I can get into later. But so I realized that I was going to enter a very, very deep, dark world that to us we could call hell. But really to me it was the underworld womb of the Mother Earth that I felt was being sabotaged and manipulated by these negative technologies, really inhibiting the planet's ability to regenerate and really inhibiting our ability to awaken to our connection and how the natural flow of knowing how to build and how to co-create and how to live in harmony was just really being tweaked by these other energies. So I guess to make a long story short, I was needing to sort out the difference and using my body as a means to differentiate the organic path of light with the false matrix. And at this stage in my journey, being an adult after having 2 kids, after surviving things that I mean, it's a miracle that I survived. I am really trying to help this planet and anybody who's listening really notice the difference and really not feed those forces anymore and really, really illuminate the divine spark within themselves to not feel separate and to feel absolutely empowered as having God within and just access to dimensions that are a part of who we are that will assist us in lifting the veils off of this planet to connect us back to universal society. So these technologies it's excruciatingly painful to see what it's done to my loved ones. It's incredibly painful to see what it's doing to the planet. Controls the weather, controls people's minds. People are chipped at young ages. The Illuminati and the forces of, I guess you'd call the global elite, even though there's some people that aren't even aware that they're agents, have been abusive and absolutely inhumane to the consciousness of so many people. And inhibiting that creative force is really created a disabled planet that energetically is functioning at a very small degree to what it's absolutely capable of. So each individual is really responsible for breaking free, but there's elements of it that, you know, there's some serious victims out there that need help. And I'm really here to expose who I believe is behind this. The agenda is to start an off-planet civilization, to allow the Earth to somewhat self-destruct so that the new civilization is created out of control of what could not be controlled here. So, you know, there's all these different timelines, and I feel like I've almost confronted every one of them. And the one that was the loudest and the most real to me was happened in about 2006 when I met an agent who I didn't know was an agent. And that was when the recruitment to Mars and trying to get me to join the mission started to take place. And through dreams and my intuition and just what I described as a child and what I understood were all the things that alerted me to this not being good, plus being an observer of how my partner was acting and all of that. I mean, it was kind of undeniable that something was wrong from the very beginning. Just when the mention of Mars came up, it was like there was no sort of, I knew that I had genetics of a leader, more as somebody who speaks on behalf of the people, not somebody who's here to take charge, but more, you know, just facilitate great change and inspire. And I knew something was wrong when I wasn't really being listened to, and it felt very controlled. And so when my partner was bringing this up, I just fought against it. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But when I met him, he posed as just a normal person, and we connected and, you know, fell in love. And later on down the road, that's when I started to realize that he was sent to find me and the reason he was sent to find me was to lure me into this recruitment. And they were very sneaky the way they did it, but luckily I'm pretty clairvoyant and very, 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 very sensitive. Any frequency that isn't organic or natural or just a part of just, our true essence, it's like I'm allergic to it. It's like it freaks me out. It makes me angry, and it's just like, it's not even a conscious thought to fight against it. It like erupts out of me. I won't have anything to do with it. And so I was taking on a lot of battles. Even my ex had alien possession things happening and frequencies that just really disturbed me. And so the amount of force I've had to use to counteract all this, from teenage years has really done a number on me. But, we're at this phase now that I was able to break free of that timeline and that agenda to Mars. And my friend was with me all the way through and can attest to it. And it's pretty intense.
Right. Now,
I could keep on going, but I'll wait till you ask a question.
Sure. Just to back up a bit, some of the revelations that you've made or that you are making, which are really grounded in revelations that whistleblowers like Andrew Bashago, who's been on Exopolitics Radio and who's talked about surveillance using time travel devices like chronovisors or actual time travel, where people are surveyed for political purposes by going ahead in time, and that the person who was your handler, sort of in this Mars project, and we'll get to the Mars project in a bit, revealed to you that you had actually been pre-identified, perhaps even by using this time travel, travel devices. And I wonder if you could talk about that.
Yes. Well, kind of when things started to reach ahead, and it kind of came to the point where the truth versus this mission and this recruitment and what was behind why I was a person of interest started to really just show itself. There was a point where between the different controls that were taking place, because he would drop everything and go on missions. He would get phone calls, and they would just say something to him, and he would drop everything and just go. And every once in a while, I could talk to his true nature, and most of the time I was talking to the person that was wanting to do this mission. And one day, I guess he was in a grounded state and wasn't really being affected. He ripped off all the cell phone batteries and unplugged everything because he thought he was bugged or said we were bugged, and wanted to let me in on, what this was all about and why I was a person of interest. And the first thing is the person that he was the right-hand man of that was really heading this is known for remote viewing. And when I did research on him, I located the fact that he is associated with a lot of negative technologies, including HARP and ELF. But besides that, what they understood about me was something that one would only understand if they were able to time travel. So there were things about, jump rooms and the looking glass thing and cubes. I mean, things I couldn't really sort out because I was in survival on a heart level. And even though I did research and I have a lot of it written down, it's almost hard to put into words, but there was something with the Akashic records and remote viewing and time travel that was able to somehow stay one step ahead of the process of nature unfolding as it should have. And when I clued into this, it helped me kind of get one step ahead of them, because I wasn't really going to let myself fall in love and, be blinded and go off to Mars and this and that. I mean, I was really on to all of this, so I kind of had to jump myself a little bit even further ahead and do a little bit of my own sort of going back into time without using technology, but just, I started to understand just what I needed to understand. And they were targeting me, I guess, because I'm able to create this shift, and they targeted him because he was somebody that I could really do this with on Earth. And they recruited him out of the Knights Templar Freemasonry group that he was somewhat affiliated with. And before he met me, they had just kind of set him up to meet me, and we probably would have met anyway, but when he did meet me, it was under their control. And he wanted me to go to Mars, and it was funny because he had names that he had identified with himself growing up: Osiris, Oberon, and Orion, and was talking to me about Sophia Magdalene and how that was a part of what these groups understood. And so there's a level of awareness about what could be happening without their influence that they just wanted to get in the way of. And they've used all sorts of means, and this is something that's been happening for lifetimes, and this is where Eisenhower kind of comes in, because even, you know, during the time of Hitler and, you know, these type of wars, and there's one scenario after another that's trying to defeat and win over a high vibration of human compassion, justice, fairness, and the sense of having a global family. And so, to me, you know, it was just, why am I taking this on? A lot of it has to do with the Eisenhower bloodline, but in further investigation, through you know, these time travel and remote viewing things, there's a lot more to it that I was already aware of before they met me. So all the pieces came together. And I'm not sure if I answered this well enough, but that's, you know.
No, sure, it is, and it, yeah. Just to crystallize it for our audience to give an idea, you write, my great-grandfather, President Ike, who was also the Army general who led the Allied forces to victory over Hitler, battled evil, corrupt powers on Earth and took on some of the most challenging scenarios in history. As I grew up, I could sense that I was completing this battle. When Hitler died, the entities, including those that were ET extraterrestrial, did not, and they continued to find hosts and create agreements with people who were a part of the races of the patriarch, who want to run things through fear tactics and the suppression of Sophia, or the essence of the divine feminine. So that what you're saying really is that you, through these technologies, a secret Mars project, who we are coming to learn even included the remote viewing and esoteric scientist Dr. Hal Puthoff, formerly of the Stanford Research Institute, had pre-identified you not only as from the Eisenhower bloodline, but also as bringing forth this fourth force of the divine feminine, and so had targeted you for a secret Mars colony to be developed and fostered as a planned or natural cataclysm took place on Earth. Is that kind of a capsule summary?
Very well put, yes. And I guess what was behind it was the idea of reseeding a new civilization, using a force that could be given to the Earth, and taking control of the creative energy that's really meant to be here. Because Sophia and this energy that I carry or am coded with is really morphed into the physical planet. And it would take a lot of reading for those who aren't familiar with this to really understand what I mean. And that's sort of what these technologies are, when I was describing these technologies, sort of taking over the life force of the planet and replacing it with manipulation and stunting its ability to really be leading us into this shift towards enlightenment and multidimensional awareness, and really having the cosmic adventure that isn't controlled, but it's all about our freedom and our divinity. So that's sort of part of the idea of cataclysms, is that if these technologies are running the show and they pull the personification of the planetary forces off the planet, they can use that and the partner Osiris to replant a new civilization on Mars. And so really it's like I'm in an energetic war against technologies, and in a power struggle in a sense, without myself being competitive. I'm more trying to unify with the patriarchal energies. I'm not here to make the woman win. I'm here to create union and sacred union. I'm here to merge with the divine male And there's so many of them on this planet, and, you know, they're being just as robbed. So it's kind of like a supplemental force that's, and if one reads about it in the ancient sense, they were able to mimic the kundalini of the mother goddess energy and create technologies out of it. So it's so close to her power that it can almost duplicate and run the show instead of her. But it does not have our best interest in mind, and it is, you know, and that's why, you know, I grew up as a child feeling buried alive, and I was really busting through all of this, just realizing that spirit and love are way stronger than these forces and these technologies, and that was going to claim victory in the end. And just connecting us and just speaking about it was, you know, which is what I'm doing now, is another huge thing. And I know we can break free of this. I have all the confidence in the world, so I'm not speaking from fear or doom. I mean, we've come so far, and the next leg of it is just really understanding the truth and having this all revealed, because it's going to be empowering, and those things are crumbling as we speak. The negative timeline, actually, somebody had pointed out, was destroyed after I broke free of the Mars mission. And really the last phase of it is most people are accustomed to those mind control energies and manipulations that it's really about sort of deactivation now and empowerment. And but they haven't won. They'll convince us that there's something to be fearful of, and, you know, they might have another plan in the making, but with all this being revealed, I find it quite impossible. And I actually had a dream that I was being attacked by robots, and I was handed a whistle, and when I played the whistle, all the robots self-destructed and exploded. So I feel very, very comfortable in this position right now. And so, yeah, something has been trying to control this and destroy the divine feminine energies, not to death, but to break it to the point where they have absolute control over it. And what this planet is doing right now, manifesting as far as these natural disasters, is not part of the Gaia unconditional love of, you know, it's like when the divine feminine energies are being repressed, how is it available to fill this world with the transformational love and wisdom that it's made of? It's being blocked. It's being, you know, I've had a lot of readings and sound technologies used to help me understand my energetic nature. I've had, you know, countless psychic validations, which weren't as potent to me as the sound technologies. And I could see it also clearly. So, it needs to be anchored, and in doing that, you know, everything's going to fall into place, and we can really experience, you know, what our birthright is. Right now, what's surrounding us is not what we should be interpreting as the natural law or anything that Gaia has in mind, or Goddess, or our deepest nature, which is filled with the blueprint of the divine spark. I mean, we're equals and we're one. And most of us know this. A lot of us know this in these fields at this point. So we just have to get loud about it. If enough of us know, it'll flood those who don't. It'll just create a shift that, you know, not everybody has to understand it, but enough of us need to come together and really raise the vibration. And that's all that's needed.
Well,
and I have all the confidence. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and just picking up on one thought that you threw out, which was your dream with the whistles and the robots, which is very interesting. We've been tracking the webbots, and which were developed by Cliff High, and one thread of the development, which we published a while back, was that the webbots found that a whistleblower which preceded you, Andrew Bishago, was found by the webbot technology to be the first of many whistleblowers that would be coming forth that would have a transformational effect. And Andy came forward initially at the end of 2008 and at the beginning of 2009 with the discovery of life on Mars, and then in the middle of 2009 with all of the information around Project Pegasus and time travel and teleportation to bases on Mars, and this was followed by another whistleblower, Dr. David Anderson, who has now come forth with the work that he had done initially in the U.S. Air Force laboratories, and then in his private work with regard to time control and time travel, and it seems to me that you are very much in that lineage of whistleblowers who are now coming forth in the 2010, 2011, 2012 timeline, the new positive timeline, to bring to public light the suppression. In your case, it's not only the suppression of technologies and the validation that we've been having, secret Mars in secret Mars colonies, and the use of this chronovisor and time travel technology to survey, manipulate, and control people. But actually what you're saying is that the dark side, just to call it that, has actually been suppressing fundamental forces of nature like the divine feminine.
Yep, and it all connects. And what's interesting is with the life on Mars thing, to be sort of a person to be taken to assist in creating even more life and even more of, kind of establishing a new creation and a new planet. It is so interesting to break free of that, because there was a lot of threats put on me and a lot of, manipulation to just target the people that I was going to fall in love with, and to have those be the people that were always, either agents or really possessed by lower alien energies that were really out to destroy me. So because they couldn't get to me directly, and I really just have a boundary, I repel it. I don't care if I have to scream. I don't care what I have to do, but I won't let those frequencies into my being. But they always seem to happen with my partners. And so I would open my heart, and they would let the initial phase of falling in love happen, and then boom, boom. It was just like my heart, it was just like I was blasted on a heart level. And it just really threw me down, and I would pick myself back up. And it's just very intense, because that was really their tactic with me. And also to say, he mentioned to me, if you don't come with us, even though you're not going to come with us, we'll kidnap you, or they'll kidnap you. And that level of, putting fear into me, maybe so that I'll say, okay, I'll go because it's safer, was just, I'm not going to go there. I feel connected to something that, I'm not afraid of death. I'm connected, as we all are, to source and to love. And there's nothing that can exceed that, and nothing that can have power over it. So I just stayed really close to that energy. And it was funny, because I even had a dream before all this was revealed that I got taken up into a ship by chains. And something from the sky said, you have to make a choice. You're either going to go with them, they're not going to hurt you, but they will control you, or you can stay on Earth. And didn't really give me much else information. And immediately I just said I was just going to stay on Earth. And I fell out of the ship, landed in the water, and I was feeling a little bit confused about it. And I tried to fly back up and located, and this big storm and lightning happened, and fell right back down in the water. And then this alignment happened, and it was like all these planets were aligning in a certain way, and just this light and just immense amount of divinity and golden energy just started to fill the place. And I woke up that morning, and funny that who I call Agent X was next to me, the one who posed as a partner that was an agent trying to get me to Mars. I told him, and he was pretty disturbed by it. And after I told him that dream, everything started to fall apart. So what's funny, at the end of the day, those subtleties are what really kept me on my toes. And, I did go to a psychic institute for 2 years that really helped me prepare, and also my childhood, and just the connection with Ike and his path, and just knowing that we had similar childhoods in the sense of feeling extremely overwhelmed and very much in touch with, a calling or a purpose. So, I don't know what these folks are up to now, but I do know that it's more about understanding Mars and life on Mars and the colonies there than wanting to look at any one person, even though there's many that are assisting and they have agreements and they're ringleaders that need to be investigated. But I'm really here to just draw attention to Mars colonies and to just really see what's going on with that now. Now that I've secured myself away from those agendas, knowing that the negative timelines are over, we still, knowing what we know now, need to keep our eyes wide open and need to be in constant dialogue about, what's going on and what's happening. So it's wonderful to be a part of this lineage because I know all these other whistleblowers. The more we start to talk and the more the dots get connected, then it's not that we're the ones that are in exile or hiding anymore. We're coming out and it's turning the lights on to every hidden agenda that's been just screwing with this thing for thousands of years.
Right, and just to remind our listening audience that what Laura says has been completely validated. I was in Barcelona in July of '09 at the Exopolitics conference there, when former DoD scientist Arthur Neumann came forth and said that he had teleported to Mars for meetings there at bases with Martian extraterrestrials, with U.S. bases there. Andy Bashar,
your voice is cutting out again.
Oh, sorry. So what I'm saying is that everything has been validated.
It's doing what it did before.
Yeah. Everything has been validated.
We might need to take a little break and figure out the technical difficulty.
Okay.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Exopolitics Radio. I'm your host, Alfred Weber. We're with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, our very extraordinary and special guest, and we apologize for these technical difficulties. Laura, you know that the Mars colony that you're blowing the whistle on today has been verified by a number of other whistleblowers, such as DoD scientist Arthur Neumann, Andrew Bashaga, who's teleported there twice, and also David Wilcock, who has said that there's a very large U.S. colony on Mars. So this is completely validated, and I wondered if you could just share with our audience what was going through your mind as you were being attempted to be recruited for this colony.
Oh gosh. I wanted to just push it away. I wanted to think that, this partner that I had met who did not let me know he was an agent until way later, I was so focused on wanting to create my concept of just sacred union and bring harmony and balance to the planet and really work the energies of bringing polarities together and really healing the archetypal splits and damages and wounds that have taken place for the last 1,000 years, and really just work that energy with him and so I was so focused on that anytime Mars came up, I just, no, that's not where we're headed. That's not what we're doing. But at the same time, being open-minded and not being a very controlling person, I was willing to listen and feel into it. And it just still didn't make any sense, because from a young age I knew, and it was very strengthened in me, that I'm really here to create global restoration, global transformation, transmutation even, and to lift veils, even the one between life and death, and that we have access to the cosmos and all these planets, but in a much more ethical way and much more fair way. And so I didn't like it at all, and I was devastated. It was really hard, and the minute I moved, after we got engaged and had our little sort of bonding ceremony to just really secure the fact that we were going to do this, have me move there, the minute I arrived, it just started to really just get worse and worse. And he, assured me that, I get your path, and he knew all about it. But it just got pushed to the side. And so here I was. I moved my whole family, my two boys, because I had been a single mother. And he just was off on these missions. He was never home, and he even climbed out the window one time, was wearing all black, and was answering like a spy would to these people. And there is a hidden branch in the government that does investigation of alien abduction, and is also a part of this Mars mission. And what I felt was the person that was running this had created it as a cover-up to the fact that he was actually behind the technologies that were recruiting and mind-controlling, really positive energies for our planet into their scheme so that they wouldn't be able to assist me or create this with all of us. So, I was really, heartbroken. At the same time, I just opened my eyes as wide as I could and just really let myself connect the dots, and then went online and did a bunch of research to back it up, and read about all sorts of stories where, one is recruited. They think they're, being a good person. They convince them that this is work for humanity. This is good service to humanity. They never get paid, but they just get called on, and they drop everything. And a lot of these people are chipped at a young age, or their parents are, and they're traumatized and dragged off and abused even. And by the time they reach adulthood, they're very broken and have like multiple personalities. They're easily controlled. And so I read a lot of similar cases, stories about the Black Ops, and I just kept looking. And I even bought orgone and rare earth magnets to try and deactivate some of his chips. And I did all that I could. And even a friend of his that was a close friend of his was noticing what was happening, and we tried to confront him. So I felt like I was in a race against time. I felt like I was losing, my love, who felt like if he wasn't being messed with, him and I would have had a profoundly incredible relationship. He really understood. He just really connected to just the archetypes and the Sophia energy in a way that that I wasn't really used to. So, and when I started to understand that they wanted us to reseed a civilization, the Osiris Isis thing was really starting to come to life. It wasn't just a psychic reading anymore. I was actually immersed in this as a character that was really fighting for my life and for just the freedom of our planet and justice. And that's where I just have so much in common, because it's just these battles. It's really returning us to who we truly are and what we truly deserve. And so that's how I felt like I was completing the battle in a way. And I feel like I feel like after all is said and done, there's got to be some sort of way, once things are exposed, to still create peace with these enemies. And because if we don't, division and war will continue. And I'm able to forgive and able to let go. It's just there's no more room for any more agendas, any more plots, any more secrets. And we've really reached the era with all of us coming forward that this is going to stop. So what they choose to do from here on is really up to them. But the power has been dismantled. I could tell I haven't been attacked in about 2 years by frequencies or energies. I'm still around people that seem to be chipped, and sometimes will just have really erratic and strange behavior. And I'm just, I start to feel that post-traumatic stress syndrome come up again. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to go there. I can't, so I'm really alert, and I can really tell the difference. So I just feel like it's like, the tail end of a comet. There's just a few sparks left, but the big ball of flames has passed us by, and we're out of danger. But it was really hard to deal with, because you can't communicate this stuff to people without them thinking, they're either scared for you, they either this sounds kind of crazy, but when you're dealing with a hidden branch of the government and you're dealing with somebody who legitimately is having these experiences, it becomes a lot more than just, I went to a psychic and they can pick up on all this, or when I was a kid I knew that I was preparing for this. Now it's become so real, and with all these other whistleblowers that, know about these Mars colonies and life on Mars, it's gonna, it obviously fits into, being something that we can swallow and accept as a reality. And so it took that was in 2006. We're here in 2010. So for 4 years, I've been, healing and just recovering and, trying to find an outlet to really express this. I've tried to tell this story before, and I wrote about 250 or so pages about it, which got deleted and destroyed somehow. And all my attempts to really bring it forward have been stunted. So this is absolutely huge for me because not only my whole lifetime I've been fighting to bring the divine feminine out of exile and create, just unity and just justice. I've also known that when this force can really penetrate the planet, it is going to eradicate, like a human body who becomes healthy and enlightened, it eradicates the germs. It eradicates, all the different things that try and undermine the health of the being. So a very organic process that we deal with in our own human bodies when we recover from something. And this planet's doing the same thing. It's almost detoxing from all these negative and harmful technologies and all these misguided uses of power and all these people that have been led astray. This awakening is like splinters. It's just flying off of the planet, and it's going to be restored, and it's going to open up. There's a gateway that I've been told that I don't like to say this, but they said I was the only one that was able to open this gateway. And to me, because I represent all of us on our as far as our divine spark goes, we're all opening it. I mean, but it's that particular energy that is capable of doing it that I would say I speak for, and I'm just completely devoted to just never turning my back on or being unaware of it. So that's where we're headed. I feel that even if a lot of members of humanity don't understand that there is something opening up that is going to enable us to exist in a higher vibration of what planet Earth is. Because we are multidimensional. We are lucid dreamers as far as I'm concerned. So, and we're about to open up to what that really means, with freedom and the imagination being the navigator. No more controls. So we're kind of all artists now and creative dreamers. And so there's not really one thing that is going to happen. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. You're free now. And so I mean, well, now that after all those years, it's
yeah, and
go ahead.
Yeah, one really powerful theme, just to follow up on this, about the Mars colony seems to be 2012 cataclysm or transcendence, and the Mars colony was about either a planned or natural cataclysm on Earth, and what you're talking about is really a transcendence in 2012 on Earth. And could you talk more about that?
Yes. It's like a light body activation. The core of the planet, is the sun. I mean, when you think about it, the core of the Earth is a ball of flames, and then we have, the sun. And when the poles connect, when things align, it's going to activate even nature to alchemize into a whole different. I mean, we're kind of in the gestation. Even nature's a part of the process of transmutation, obviously. So, when this shift happens, and what's funny, my birth number, September 29th, 1973, adds up to 2011. So I always kind of felt, so pulled into it. Like, the Venus path that I'm on, just 7 Venuses and 7 Plutos in my chart. I could always feel like this birthing happening. And, so transmutation in the sense of really, it's like, what does cataclysm mean? One can astrologically read it, which is an incredible shift. But yes, there's been 2 timelines. One would be the atrophy and self-destruction of the planet if you remove a being like me from it who's morphed into the creative energy of everything. Even though that sounds crazy, I did get it proved and validated. I have interviews it is all written, so people can check that out. I can't put it all into words, but I wouldn't be saying this unless I had proved it, because it's just, I need reality to back this up. But this birthing and this process of global alchemy, using the elements, and how it relates to Venus is similar to what the ancients know about, the pentagram being upside down, going into matter. Well, the Venus energy, which is what I represent, is sort of turning the pentagram upright again and connecting it with the 5th element, spirit, to create this shift. And they tried to stop this shift from happening. And it survived. This particular timeline survived, and they didn't want it to, but it made it. And so what does that mean? Well, we're all a part of that. Venus is a unified field of love and awareness, and just it's a very creative planet in the sense of it's the closest to the Earth, and it goes into the darkness, and it rises, and it goes in, and then it's like the cycle of nature. So for lifetimes, I've actually been doing this, which was read and validated. So, but I don't stand alone, and this is nothing I would claim because I couldn't do it without the love of this, our unity, and it's really just the awareness of how we are one and how we all have our roles that I always connected myself to, like ethereally or esoterically. I just contacted that part of each other and just kind of brought us all with me. So this is nothing I'm rising out of. We're rising out of this together. This is our story, not history, her story. It's like we are moving into an alignment that is going to blow the lid off, the lid that's kept us in quarantine and has kept our planet in exile from the rest of the universe. And so the Mars thing is, yes, there'd be an Earth cataclysm if that timeline didn't work out. And, we have movies to show us these different potentials, and we can almost see, just based on the books that are out there, wow, there's all these different scenarios. One is, all these global disasters. One is, just, I don't even know if there's one yet that's about what I'm talking about, but that it is a secure and noted thing. And the Mayan calendar, which is related to Venus transit, prophesies that in 212, time dies. So if there's any kind of cataclysm, it's the end of time. It's the end of the wheel of necessity, the wheel of karma, the wheel of, the restoration of the tree of life, where it's not about good and evil anymore. It's about the merging of polarities, and all this is, religion's trying to understand it, but if one kind of steps out of dogma, religion, and interpretation, it's very clear that this is a natural process. This is nature's will. It's not. You still there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's nature's will. So to be riding the waves of nature, the wind, the earth, the fires, and the waters, and spirit is a very comforting thing to shift. To have us be birthing us, because that is the mother energy. That is Gaia. That is, my site's called Cosmic Gaia because Gaia is a multidimensional being that, encompasses the universe and the mother energy before the Big Bang even happened. And it's all kind of concentrated like a circuit board right here on planet Earth, connecting us to the rest of the cosmos, including all planets and star systems and races. So, that's really what's ahead of us. And any kind of fear and doom about catastrophes and this and that, we're not in the clear yet. We just had a major earthquake. I know that we've had victory, but we have victory because we're talking now. And I know that I'm safe, and that's a huge omen for those of us who are awake and aware. But the world leaders need to disclose, ET file. Everything needs to come out of the woodwork now. And these technologies still exist. As much as the games are being busted, they still have a lot of, influence. So there needs to be just a massive investigation and a stop to all this. And like that dream, blowing these whistles is making these robots explode. So we're safe as long as we talk and as long as we really reach out to those of power and start to bring the power of the people to the same level of the power of what we call our world leaders. We all have to rise to that level of leadership in our own worlds, and it can't be about hierarchy anymore. So as long as we have a voice and as long as we're making these things happen, we're fine. But any more secrets and any more, feminine energies in exile and hidden agendas staying hidden, we're going to be down that track where cataclysms are likely. But because I'm talking, because others are, and a lot is going to be put out there, I in my senses and intuition, I know we're going to be okay, but a lot still needs to be done. But we are on the right track, that's for sure.
Right. Now, just for the listening audience, the details of the secret Mars colony, a lot of the details are in your paper, in your article.
I can barely hear you again.
Oh, okay. We have about 5 minutes left in this segment. What would you like to share with our audience?
Okay, I can't hear you at all, so
okay.
I think you mentioned something about Mars again.
Yeah.
Mars is really looked at as a sort of backup. Everybody wants to, the plan of the global elite was just to create a bunch of ships and not take everybody, but take a selected few, who they call a part of, the elite that didn't even choose to be the elite. So these ships that they were developing, and when I was exposed to all of this, the ships that they named were Sophia and Merlin, funny enough. And what they told me is that I could pick family members and friends to take to Mars, and everything was going to be great, and we're just going to start a new civilization there because the Earth is going to, and it's just like, no, there's no select few. We're all in this together. I'm not, that's when I really knew that this was screwed up. So, that it really is, considered, let's destroy everything and let's just plant the seed with who we think is important enough. And that's not what it's all about. Because it is under the control of something that is a very selfish, dominating, controlling being that, wants to do that with the suppression of the feminine still intact, but just, in a happy little prison that it might make, for it to soothe the maybe defeat of not being able to fulfill a deeper goal that I'm sure we all share. So, they tried to fluff it up and make it sound like a good thing, and I just couldn't abandon this planet or humanity. And so, really the plan was to get these ships to just take a select few. And the thing is with HARP and stuff like that, that they could create a lot of cataclysms and there might be ships that leave, and Obama and the administration is talking about that a lot more than they're talking about disclosure. So, somebody's got to get loud here. And I have connections as an Eisenhower to these high political circles. And, if I'm assisted, I have a voice that would love to just say what needs to be said and shift the power into where power belongs, which is love, not in the gushy love, but in the higher love. So, I will take responsibility to, really put things in place, but there's not enough discussion about what really matters. Everybody's trying to find a backup plan because they're assuming a cataclysm is going to happen. We need to locate these technologies that could create such things because this is not the divine will and plan of nature. I'll tell you that. Not even close. So, because I can't hear you, Alfred, do you want to give me a call, I wonder? Maybe make some sort of sound?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, good. We have about a minute and a half in this segment. Do you want to just summarize for the listening audience what you'd like to have investigated?
Yes, I would like to have investigated. Well, there's a few key players that are hard for me to say, but without pointing any fingers, I think, Dr. Hal Puthoff needs to be investigated. The aviary, which has been a hidden branch of the government, needs to be investigated, because these are some of the things that maybe or maybe not, but with a very strong suspicion on my part after what I've been through, are behind the technologies, behind mind control, behind chipping individuals, behind false abductions that mimic actual real abductions, and that, anything that's been covered up in the government, Obama's not that far away from me as far as somebody that I could create relations with. My mom did a speech at the Democratic Convention as a Republican that switched from the Democratic Party. If, I have the support that I need, I know that I can get myself to where I need to be to demand that some of these things happen. I've always, actually as a child, felt like I was going to have a role like this, as scary as it was. So on top of all those things needing to be investigated, there needs to be a radical movement and a truth campaign to not wait for the powers that be to discover it, but for us to demand that the powers that be do something about it and open their eyes to the dangers that we're in. Instead of thinking of Plan B, let's think about what we have happening and what is getting in the way of it. What is getting in the way of what we are really needing to create? Because, going off to another planet is leaving a lot of us behind. And even though I was chosen to be one of them, why aren't I going? Because that's not what the mother goddess energy is, not what, however anybody wants to think of what the creative force of the planet is, whether they think it's just the planet is just a resource and they can't fathom that there's a personification of it in a deity form, or maybe those who don't believe in Christ, I don't know how to put it in different terms, but the will of nature wants this planet to go through this birthing process and to transmute. That's the track we're on, and we just need to pick a few of these different areas to focus on in order to just remove them as being any kind of threat, even though I don't see them as a threat. It's just, it's not good to take any chances. So, Mars colony needs to be investigated more, and whistleblowers and all of our information needs to really come together and go to the leaders of this world and demand that it's taken seriously. And this is part of why maybe I was born into the Eisenhower family and had this Sophia Magdalene thing, because I really feel like, oh, this is interesting because the dots are kind of connected and both of these rivers run in and out of my being. So there's got to be some way that I can connect the two. And I don't say this because there's doom and this is an emergency, but this is something that has to be done just as a preventative measure and to protect us.
Thank you. Well, we're going to continue this conversation in a second hour. This is Exopolitics Radio. We've been with our very, very special guest, an extraordinary being that we're very privileged to have with us, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. I'm your host, Alfred Weber. Please stay tuned for our second hour. Thank you. Welcome back. This is Exopolitics Radio. I'm your host, Alfred Weber, and we're starting now part two of an extraordinary, I would say, an extraordinary opening with our very special guest, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. And Laura, we were finishing up from the first hour, and there's something that you'd like to share with the listening audience.
Yes, I just wanted to mention one thing. When I was confronted with almost not having a choice to go to Mars on this mission, when I was trying to have my partner stay with me and really convince him that, he was better off just healing himself from all these frequencies and really just understanding this, he would get defensive. And in the moments that he was clear and he was able to sort of understand what was going on, he had incredible death threats. So even if I could have succeeded in winning, like just getting a grip on his mind to stay on Earth with me, they absolutely were not going to let him out of their grips. And that was probably the most painful part, because in a way I lost him to them. And so I hope that what I'm saying is going to assist him in breaking free, because there's no way that it was going to happen. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. It wasn't like he had a choice.
Right. So you write, all that I ask is that this be further investigated. There is still much to uncover and piece together, and that's a very, so you are really reaching out to his soul and asking for his healing also. In this hour, rather than focusing so much on the episode of the Secret Mars colony that you went through, which is a central part of the whistleblowing act that you are launching now, I'd like to shift, because the message that you're bringing is a message that is only beginning to be heard now. And I'd like to read from something. It's actually a very moving paper, which you're an article which the listening audience can find at Laura's Facebook page. They can find it on her website. What is your website again?
So you're cutting out again, but it's cosmicguy@2012.com.
Okay.
It'll be on my blog.
Oh, good. On the blog, and then also it'll be linked at exopolitics.com and also at an Examiner page. But it ends this way. I represent a unified field of awareness, and my being affects all. So when I speak, I'm speaking on behalf of our divine blueprint and true nature as one. And Laura, from the point of view of the divine feminine, could you just share with us what you see as unfolding in this time now on Earth?
Well, I see, that the breaking free of all those agendas and the patriarchal forces. And so, as I was saying, because you were kind of cutting out, I'm not sure what the audience is able to hear, but when I do speak, I am speaking for a unified field. I am speaking on behalf of our oneness. The mother energy is within all of it. I mean, we've inherited the blueprint. We've inherited the DNA of the Creator. So, male and female. And so my job really is to illuminate it and awaken it if one isn't already in touch with it. So when we say oneness, it's really the connection of that spark and that seed in us that we need to empower. And when that happens, it's like our collective force is vibrating at the level of God, goddess, whatever you want to call it, divine feminine, divine male, sacred union, divine union. And when those poles come together, what happens is the light, and this is why this relates to the Venus path, the light of the highest of levels of the heavens are able to penetrate the darkness, and the darkness, which has been hell, which has been chaos, which has been filled with parasitic entities and lost souls and the illusions of separation. And this is part of what my path has been about, to plant the seed of divine union. But when we really realize that part of our journey has been secured, we'll recognize the darkness is what's birthing the light, what's birthing this whole new reality that we're about to shift into. So if one can kind of see it as something that used to be blocked, because of these hidden agendas, negative technologies and manipulations, when I was able to break free of those barriers and move through them and all these different gateways, a trail was left behind that was able to receive that light into those hell regions. And what's happening is that as it's gestating and as we are aware of our own unity within and we really recognize that's within us, then we can start birthing that in our expression, in our actions, and the way we treat one another, and we really start to step up to the plate and not live, in a self-serving, egotistical way, but really start to think about, as well off as we might be, or we're connected to every other being out there, and if there is injustice and suffering out there, I mean, we have to take responsibility to bring things back to alignment, bring things back to justice. Any collective imbalance is what creates external imbalance. And the way to really defeat these forces is to dig deep, and I use the term archaeology of the soul. We have vast amounts of treasures within, and and a lot of us have gone through heavy duty, deep soul work, but it's the same sort of concept that I've done on a larger level. When I was young, I didn't really have any boundary to global energies. It's like my aura didn't stop at Laura. It just continued and continued and continued. So it was like, I really could feel everything. And so I did what I call soul alchemy on my journey into the hell regions to plant the seed. And as I moved through those negative forces, I absorbed it into my being to, kind of transform it and transmute it, knowing that the things that cannot be transformed or awakened need to be starved of us giving it power. And that's the only way to make it kind of die. What can't be unified and what can't dissolve into oneness needs to not be given our power. And that's how it kind of falls off the map. So with these type of awarenesses, what's happening with the divine feminine energies is I'm pulling out of those depths. I mean, when one says exile, there's the exile of being forgotten and neglected, but then there's, the journey that if one learns about Inanna and even Magdalene, all these are parallel. to taking that journey that this archetype who personifies Venus has taken for countless times. But there was a big span of time where that wasn't happening. During these world wars and this and that, it was the divine feminine energy really kind of thrown off the map and instead of the evil energies which we're trying to do. But I recognized when I was young, this is something I have done before. And I just had a sense of what I was about to do. Kind of after my great grandfather fought the Second World War, and all the heroes that are just as much a hero. I mean, everybody's a hero that had anything to do with that victory. I almost feel like him and I just sort of exchanged times in different eras to do this sort of work. But by the time I was born, I was really being called to take that journey again and to really be in that cycle of nature that I always have been, but have just been exiled from. And I've gotten a lot of readings. Somebody who had read the Dalai Lama I met a year ago who gave me a reading, and it was really intense and very difficult to hear. But he, I think I said in the last segment, he said, I'm the only one that can really open this gateway, in the sense that in our oneness, we're all kind of needing to open it together. It's just, I think I'm the only one that maybe needs to be a voice for this and kind of demand it. Although I think a lot of people are already aware that there is a gateway to be open and that they're being co-creative with the Venus energy. So, as much as I can do a lot on my own, it's not really meant to be a lonely journey of just me and we're really starting to just come together. And so the last phase of being able to complete this is something that we all have to do together. So there was a time when I could only do it on my own because I was massively targeted by the patriarchal energies to just not be in existence. So there was a level of kind of something I had to complete myself, but the rest of it is really about us. And so when I see unified field, it was like everybody was with me. And it was like I was kind of carrying our light and with great passion and great love and service. It's like I couldn't want to do anything else. I mean, if the necessity is there, I would rather have not had to do it, but it's like there's just no way that I'm coded for it. So it's excruciating, but it's so filled with love and devotion and I'm really honored to be given this role, and it's been very hard for me to accept that I doubted it, and I was pretty self-destructive and really just, who wants to hear that? And, it's not going to sit well with anybody. So I had to go on a parallel journey to just validate it. And like I said, I got those sound technologies, and when this person who read the Dalai Lama had read me, there wasn't a lifetime I could survive past the age of 25. I mean, as we know in history, what did they do to women for the last God knows how many years? So I really couldn't do a whole lot but hide away in caves and it takes a radical shift in thought to accept what I'm saying, and I totally understand that. And I'm ready to be challenged, and I'm ready for all sorts of skeptics if one wants to focus on this aspect of what I'm sharing. It's very understandable, but there's a lot of books out about it now, and there's a lot that people can read about to kind of get a better understanding. But this was a real opening to be born into this time, to have suppression of women alleviated, so that there isn't death for being the type of woman that I am. That was the result. So now it's more like the war with technologies, because you can't really get away with being burned at the stake anymore, or whatever they used to do. Now it's like, okay, plan C or D in this era, technologies. It's an invisible war. It's something that nobody can see. So, but I knew that this would be a lot easier for me to tackle because I'd still be able to hang on to my physical body. But I did have to leave my physical body for at least 12 years. I know that sounds odd, but that was when I was traveling through the multi-dimensions and kind of clearing these entities that stood in the way, that have been like the lid that's been keeping us controlled and in exile from the universal society that we're from. So it was really, a task that I had to just battle it daily. I mean, it just, there's no way to put into words what that encompassed. So what I'm seeing right now is that, I'm in a safe position, and I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if I hadn't completed it. But it's a very difficult thing to describe. It's a very difficult thing to understand. But it's no different than digging really deep into the soil and planting a seed, just like a gardener. So I consider myself kind of a gardener of creation. And things are slow. It takes a long time. Things need to harvest. Things need to sprout. And, and we're all kind of, and then there's the water that it needs to be watered. There needs to be sun. And everything surrounding it matters to the health of it. What that tree grows around. It's very similar to, the concept of the tree of life. So, everything's fallen into place as far as nature's will to create these conditions to allow me to be on such a path and to really, utilize the Venus energies to go into those steps. So if anybody's an astrologist and they want to look at my birthday, they'll see that 7 planets are ruled by Venus and 7 are ruled by Pluto, all sort of intertwined. And if one understands the Pluto energy, it's death, transformation, and rebirth, and it represents the underworld, it represents the womb, it represents soul. And Venus, represents, love and unity and oneness and just all the, just love, light. So one can see in my chart, actually, that this is, in fact, is very real. And to have that kind of lineup, if one reads about Inanna and the goddess story, there's 7 gateways of hell, and there's 7 heavens, and then there's the 8th, where she sort of resides before she enters. So this is all very real to me, and this is all I know. It's a whole new thing, though, to explain it to people. And it's all I've ever known. So I guess my challenge is how can I help people to understand it? And that's really not my mission. My mission is more about, getting rid of these just what I described in the first segment. I guess the only reason I would even bring this up is to understand, well, what is the purpose behind the Divine Feminine? What does she really want? It's a very selfless thing. It's don't want to be put on any kind of pedestal or to be criticized or kind of put through the same things that I've been put through for however long. What I really want is to embrace our equality and our oneness and really just understand that whatever role I've been given, it's really to secure this and to awaken this, and that's about as far as I can go with it. And it's unusual because not many people manifest or reincarnate with this sort of energy matrix. And it used to baffle me as a kid because I did not feel normal. And I'm sure we all feel unusual and not normal, but on a level that was extremely, extremely frightening because it's been so buried and attacked and put in exile. It's sort of that overwhelming feeling when you're a kid. I'm buried alive, and I got to do something about this. And it's not really about me. It's like for all of us. Why would it be about me? What could I possibly need? I'm not really looking for anything. It's just my heart's connected to everybody, and like my heart's within. It's just my love for the human race is excruciatingly powerful. If people understood the at least decade-long period of tears and anguish, they would understand my heart and my compassion. So there's no way to put it into words without somebody, really reading up on it and really reading the articles and being able to listen to this and refer to what's been written and maybe listen again, and if they want to put that kind of time into it. But the Divine Feminine energies are needed on this planet for us to be okay. And I don't know why there was such a problem with it before, but there's a lot of responsibility on my part, and a lot of the reasons why Christ incarnated was to assist me. And religion misunderstood it, and that's okay. Because what's funny is I don't hold anything against anything. It's almost like a fresh slate constantly. It's just the minute love is happening, it's like the history just dissolves and we're just present. We're timeless. It's like there's nothing but right now. And in a sense, we are immortal because of that. And we tend to look at history and we look at time and we, compartmentalize like this period and that period, our future and da-da-da-da. But when we look at it, it's all one big, like, present moment thing. And these are just memories that don't hold much relevance except for recalling something that was misunderstood and fixing it and readjusting our perceptions and seeing it in a new light and realizing, okay, well, there was Christ, and isn't it odd that, well, where's the woman? Okay, well, there's Magdalene, but what's this Sophia? Like, there is Christ Sophia. This is our blueprint. I'm basically, it's like if the inside of one's spirit or just soul and the blueprint that we were all born with had a voice, that's me, and that's all I am. It's like, I just somehow speak on behalf of that, and I advocate it, I fight for it, I go through any level of hell to resurrect it in all of us, and that's why I describe myself as a unified field. And I would prefer to be transparent and just be a normal person. I mean, I am a normal person. I'm about as ordinary. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a very, very just normal person, except for not the normal, like, evil, manipulative. I'm a good person. I just have a lot of energy that I have access, that I'm responsible for, that I can influence, and it's frightening at times. And I know I could relate to something similar. And and what is power anyway? It's like we all have power. We've been robbed of our power, though, and so I don't have any more power than somebody who has none at all. It's just they've been imprisoned and they don't know how to access it. It's been stolen in a way. I mean, when we all are empowered and we're in our oneness, there's nobody who has more power than the other. We are in a frequency of love and unity, and it's not about this person's higher, this person's more powerful. It's like, my power is a gift. My power is love. So whatever I have, I'm giving to the planet. And we all originated in this field. So I could never claim it to be mine. It's just I'm holding onto it for dear life so that those, who's that are manipulating this whole thing don't steal it and harm it anymore. And so there are times where I had no energy in my being at all. And I mean, I was just dragging my body around, and the rest of me was in other dimensions and other places because it's so hostile here, battling those things. And, it was a way to protect it. It's like I put it in this place because it's not welcome here. Because if I bring it here, they'll even, it's just, I'm used to almost like the memories of my past life of being destroyed, being killed. So, I mean, in order for me to just sort of blend in, I had to put all that energy elsewhere. Now that, I used it when I could to sort of put it in the places that I needed to very carefully. Strategizing, I call myself a global strategist. Part of the strategy is how do I handle this and use it appropriately to reach the goal, This is something that's, if somebody's given, if somebody's given something to be responsible for, it's like being a bus driver to a school of children on a snowy mountain road. It's like, I mean, it's a challenging thing. How can I be as careful as possible to ensure that everybody survives and that, that I handle it okay? And, that's one example. Then the other example would be how can I be okay enough to step forward without wanting to just make it go away so that I don't make anybody feel uncomfortable with me because I don't want to be treated different. So then there's that dilemma. And then there's, okay, well, if I don't bring it in, then, I know that things aren't going to be okay, so I really have no choice. And it's the kind of thing that just messes with you and messes with you. But a lot of the attacks on me were to basically keep me out of my body because if I did bring all that energy in, it would create this shift. So there was a need to protect it, but at the same time, it was also being, sabotaged. And even the Bohemian Grove and some of these global elite types, they have all sorts of totems to the goddess. There's so many symbols in the Illuminati, on the dollar sign. If one looks really, really close at all the symbols, and just labyrinth, pentagram, the dollar sign, I mean, there's always some sort of symbol of the goddess, but it's being completely manipulated and used. It's like my creative force has been used. Our creative force, our essence, our true essence has been used and manipulated, and just same thing with the weather. And so it's very parallel to what we were talking about before. It's just a whole other dimension that some of us don't realize, that the mother energy, whatever you want to call it, the life force of this planet, the creative power that we all have is being used. And we're sort of living in this false matrix. and oblivious to where we're giving our power. And we're kind of like forgetting that we're assuming that some of these religions and people are correct, that we need to pay for this or we need to, and the thing is when this sort of stuff comes to light, it puts a lot of people out of business. So it's a money thing. Who's going to pay that person if we're empowered? The whole economy's crashing in a sense. So all of this is like, I can't just bring myself in like in a snap of a finger because I've been attacked, but I can bring myself in if there's a level of support and awareness, because it's not something I should have to do alone anymore. And I have been, because it's felt like the only way, because who's going to believe it? So when I went on that journey to really get the validation I needed, I started to feel like I have enough backup here to be able to come out and say this. And if somebody wanted to look real deeply into it to see if it's true, they're going to find what they need to say, okay, she's speaking truth here. Most of the people that are close to me know this about me too. So, I don't want to confuse anybody about how I handle my energy. It's just, like I said, there's multiple reasons that I have a really hard time bringing it in. First of which is that it's been under attack. Second of which, I have been afraid of it, because I'm programmed throughout history to be destroyed. So it's like, is this a safe place to do it? Are these the right people to really feel safe around? Because if one's not accepting it in themselves, why would they accept it in me? Because as I bring it in, it's happening to all of us. So whatever's happening to me is happening to everybody. But when somebody starts to think it's me, Laura, alone, then, they're not going to understand what it really represents. And they're going to block it from themselves, and it's going to end up attacking it again. But if it's really allowed to be anchored, if we all kind of take responsibility for anchoring it, it has nothing to do with Laura anymore. So we all have to just anchor an energy that I have access to through a gateway, through some sort of portal or stargate, to open us up that, is all of ours. It just happens to have landed, on me to unlock the key. It's just like, why did it land on Obama to be handling the decisions he's making? We all have our roles, but I certainly can't do this alone. So, my role is no less or more important than anybody else's, because at this point we all need to do this together. And there's access that I have to an incredible amount of energy. They say I only have 4% of it in my body right now. So imagine if I could bring in 94% more or 96% more, and that it would affect all of us, not just me. So the sound technology person I saw about 3 months ago even said that to me. If you bring this in, then everybody has access to it within themselves. So it's a very interesting thing to be in a human body and at the same time represent so many, and at the same time represent the forces of nature and all this kind of stuff. So, my heart and my physical, it's a daily struggle to manage myself energetically. I was bedridden for about 2 years because it was just so intense as I was, in this descent into hell and just planting a seed and creating global transformation and letting everything into my being to heal it, and just handling the secrecy of it and the attacks, and then raising twins. As a single mother, in the thick of all of this, here I birthed these 2 beautiful babies, and what kind of reality check is that? You can't really get away with having delusions when you lived in the wilderness as long as I have, and you birthed twins without a lot of finances and no stability from a man, because they're all possessed by aliens. So not the good ones. There are good ones. So, it's an amazing place to be right now, because I can actually, Facebook is a miracle. To have contact, all I've ever wanted to do is love everybody, and I've been blocked and unable to. It's like they've been messing with me. So the greatest gift that what divine feminine energy feels like is all it wants to do is love. That's all. That love is so powerful, and it's all of ours. And, it's like, that's our oneness right there. And they kept me from that, and they've shipped people to misunderstand me and want to destroy me. And just been very, very, very alone most of my life. And, it's hard to talk without even, crying. It's very, very real. And, I don't expect a lot of people to grasp it, but I think, when you read what I've written and, more of this comes to light, it'll start to help my words fall into place a little bit more, because I know that, it's new to me to put it into words in front of, more people than maybe one-on-one with somebody I'm confiding in. So I'm kind of whistleblowing the exile of the divine feminine and what she's been through and what's happened. And women feel this. It's not just me. And men feel it too. And patriarchy isn't a male thing. You know, patriarchy is a force that has affected men and women. And some women are patriarchal. So it's not about, you know, a battle of the sexes. It's about really understanding, you know, our divine essence, which is male and female, you know, married, light and dark married, all these different things that have been ripped apart with a major blockage of manipulation standing in the middle, you know. This is the splinter that I'm removing, that, you know, the love that everybody shares and the support is removing with me. And that's, I guess, what I could say on the level of divine feminine. It's very ancient. You know, there was a time where there was wholeness. And, I mean, there's numerous names. Kali, that would be the part of me that I accessed, the rage, when I traveled into the underworld. That was the hidden aspect that has sort of been controlled, and Kali's extremely powerful, so it's not that it can be really controlled, it's just been really repressed, and that's why the epidemics were sort of happening, because that fire wasn't allowed to really, you know, transform and wipe all that away. And I remember doing the energy work of the anthrax scares and a lot of different stuff. I've been doing energy work on these levels for my whole life. You know, anytime there's a disaster, and even around 9/11, I kind of swept off my feet and taken on this sort of, you know, I mean, like this this alter ego. It's unexplainable. But I woke up that rage, and I knew that fire, you know, was transformational. And I'm still, you know, I have a lot under the surface. And I wouldn't say that it would be expressed as anger, but when I've been pushed, and, you know, there's an extreme amount of rage there, but what is also with fire? Passion, transmutation, transformation. So in those Plutonian depths that I hold, you know, it can be expressed in numerous ways. And I think the rage needs to end, because the rage isn't really helping. It's stopping the negative technologies. It's scaring those forces away. But at the same time, it needs to relax. It's way heavy duty on my heart. It needs to relax. And it needs to just come out of the ground like that seed I planted and just sprout and spread that love, you know? I mean, there's a problem expressing myself because it sounds like me, but it's really an us thing, you know? And it's hard to sort of understand. It's similar to Eisenhower. It's like he had his position fighting this war, but it wasn't just him. I mean, every single person that put their life out there was a hero. So everything that everybody does, each role is specific and unique and important, you know? So just some of us are given roles that we benefit greatly just from support and the understanding that if anybody understands how Eisenhower was as a leader, it's very much about the well-being and the justice and the peace and the togetherness. It's not about domination. It's not about being right. It's not about being in control. And that's what he stood for. And he's some amazing quotes that I connect with so well about that. And so, I mean, that's a good way to understand, you know, at least what type of leader I am of maybe the divine feminine energy. It's kind of like, how do I lead? I want to create leaders. I want to turn everybody into an empowered leader and creator and multidimensional being that they are, that has the freedom to access anything. All the loved ones that have passed by, that have passed on, death is there's no more room for that, you know. All of this needs to go. So there's going to be an accelerated period happening soon, and these type of things are going to cease to exist, and that's part of the wheel of necessity ending and time ending. When time ends, you know, the need for us to even die ends. We can just travel through a portal rather than lose our physical body, but we can shapeshift too if we want. You know, I'm not going to project, you know, what the future's going to be like, but believe me, if you have an imagination and you imagine being an artist with that imagination, that's the gift we're going to be given. And an adventure. It's always an adventure. So, are you still there?
Yes, I am. This is really fascinating, and you know, I'm looking at this passage from your paper, from your article. It says, someone who has psychically read the Dalai Lama confirmed me as Magdalene Sophia just a year or so ago, and told me I was the only one who could open the gateway to our liberation. Could you tell us more about the gateway for our liberation?
Yes, well, there's something like wormhole. If somebody knows William Henry's work, I haven't really read that much of it because I haven't been able to read much. Just because I've been able to browse, but it's like I've had to focus so much on, okay, well, what's happening in me, and because I'm not letting any other frequencies into my being, I just need to hear me. But he's one person that really does understand the concept of, Philosopher's Stone, Jacob's Ladder, wormhole, stargates. And he's written a lot of books about Magdalene and the stargates, and what that all means, and it connects with all the ancient archetypes, Osiris, Isis, and so kind of the Venus thing going into sort of, it's like death and resurrection, similar to what Christ went through. We sort of have a parallel thing of defeating death through love and rising and resurrecting. And Venus is also a Lucifer energy, but that's why it kind of mimics, when I said before, the Kundalini of the goddess has been mimicked and technologies have been created out of it to kind of overthrow it. It's very similar, and it's just very ancient and very hard to understand, but science is starting to really, it's all coming together. Physics, science, alchemy, astrology, architect. Everything's going to start to find relationships to each other. So it's not going to be, oh, here's a scientist and here's a mystic. Well, they're two totally different things. Or here's the Catholic and here's a Christian. All these boundaries are going to start to dissolve. So a stargate, in a sense, is the weaving of, crossing dimensions. There's something I call gatekeepers that, whether they're manifested as people or, archetypes, or, I'm not going to use that word too much, but just something that prevents one from getting to the next level of their being. It's like, just like with any of those hero stories of initiations, of having to fight the Hydra. It's all very old like that, and myth does repeat itself. So there's been a level of initiation, passing through certain gateways, having to confront and deal with, this archetype, this aspect of the goddess. I've gone through Ariadne, Isis, Inanna, Persephone. They've all really shown themselves. There was the abduction into the underworld, but then there was a part of me that was willing to go. And then there was, the Kali, the fires that I awakened. And there was the Isis Osiris thing going to Mars. And then the Ariadne, the weaver, of the silver wheel, which has to do with the wheel of necessity. And she's the aspect of all of this that's most associated with time ceasing. So there's sort of been this weaving in and out throughout these dimensions to sort of, and you and I talked about this before, how we're all kind of, coming together, these dimensions. There's been major separation between all of them. It's been hard to access things like Avalon and Shambhala and the civilizations of Atlantis. Where is that energy anymore? People most know that, these things have existed. It's where are those the energy streams that allow those advanced civilizations to even exist anymore? So, it's sort of, when the divine feminine energy started to be destroyed, so did those civilizations. And we've been living in a very lower, it seems like we don't even get it unless we've just begun. We're polluting. It's like that knowledge and that ancient wisdom has died. And we're just like, oh yeah, we shouldn't pollute. Or, oh yeah, I guess that would ruin the ozone. And there's been many races of people on this planet and parallel worlds that, we're connected to. They're a part of our matrix that absolutely understood this stuff. There's technologies that have been hidden that are so incredibly advanced, as you know, and so the Stargate is really just kind of returning us to those levels of higher civilizations, and to give us communication and connection back to the cosmos. So it's kind of, you call it a gateway, you call it a portal, and there's a level of light and just that is going to come flooding in through that, and it's also going to awaken our abilities to, even beyond technology, transport ourselves. In a way, technology is a bit of a supplement, like training wheels, until we really understand that, well, where does all this come from? We have those abilities. So the Venus Stargate and the natural Stargate that has been created through nature, there's man-made Stargates too, but this one is specifically created through the forces of nature, without any manipulation, except for someone like me and Christ and all of those who are awake are promoting and creating and establishing to lift, to just be able to bring it in. And so it takes clearing a lot out of the way and bringing a lot of the energy in. And So it's kind of like I've left a lot of different trails in the universe, in the multi-dimensions. And it's like without even knowing, it's like, how do I do this? It's like, how can I explain it? It's kind of like when I look at some artists or I look at, everybody else's work, I'm amazed at what people can do. So, it's funny. I'm thinking, gosh, well, this is the work I do. And how the heck do I do this? This is so weird, but I just do it. And what's great is it's really important for me to sit down with people that can see me clearly because I have a hard time articulating it. And, it just helps me like, yes, that is it. Yep, that's right. So, hopefully I'll get to know people like William Henry better and who really does speak the language that others can understand more than the way I'm trying to share it. But when one thinks about just like a pyramid and just how, different ways that light, and vortexes and just the whole the whole planetary grid is going to be activated, and this is, just another thing that is part of what I was saying before about transmutation and the activation of the light body. It's going to change. It's going to flood, the veins of the earth, and that's another interesting thing about the Divine Feminine, about that interview I had where somebody, I don't even know if I should even go there, but about that orb and Eve and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting because, one is awakened to these technologies and this and that. And then there's this whole other thing that had nothing to do with the agencies and their desire to get me to Mars. There was very archetypal, strange things, spells put on me. Somebody who had an interview with a woman in 1980 who told him that he was going to meet Sophia, and that she was our mother, and described physically exactly how this person looked, exactly how their personality was, exactly what their past was like, and how she's drowning in her humanness, and blah, 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 and just, but this is really what it's about, and explained everything about all the tribes and Adam. I mean, it's just like mind-blowing stuff. There's only one document that exists, and I have it. He gave it to me. It's not like been photocopied. I can't even locate this man, so he's the only other person that has it. I've actually sent it to maybe one or two people that I knew could handle it, but this is just as much of a whistleblower as anything, because this is really going to explain a lot about religion and about everything that a lot of people are trying to figure out about Eden, so that's a whole other thing that eventually should be opened up more, and it needs, like me, people are going to need a little bit of proof, and I understand that because I was a skeptic when I first read that, but at the same time, it's like the cells in my body would just start to like shudder and just like, oh gosh, everything that this is saying is I feel it, it's true. Describing countless children and tribes and this orb and the elixir of life and how to create, this thing, and she used it to stay alive. And so anyway, I met him, and he had given me that, and I read it. It said, describe me, my height, my eye color, my hair, my everything. So he also admitted that he didn't know I was 7 years old when they had the interview, and so he, after 3 years or so, just was getting frustrated with searching for me and created a very, very powerful spell that I started to feel at a young age, and so I read a lot about that people might be interested in, how I broke free. I had to, confront him and really get, my energies back. And it got out of control. It wasn't his intention to do that, but I could feel that yank on me. And what was funny, when I finally let go, because it would control me, it's like no matter how much I tried to create, no matter how many opportunities I tried to jump for to just have a normal life, I'm being pulled in this and that direction. So one time I let go, and I just, okay, well, where does this force want me to go? Because I have to confront it, because it's really messing with me. I can work really hard to defy it, but it's exhausting. So I just kind of let that force take me where it wanted, and boom, I met him. And he gave me that interview and admitted to that spell, and we worked out the dates where I started to feel this, and he apologized, and I was like, that's okay. Now I'm going to go deal with Mars. And the next person I met was Agent X, who I'll call Agent X, at that festival, which was about 3 months later after I broke free of this other person. So it's one thing after another. And what was funny in the interview, it said she'll be caught up in one adventure after another. I wouldn't... And it's just like endless. So, and then of course my ex, who was highly possessed by these forces, and there was no rest for me since I was a young kid. And, that's why coming out with all this, a lot of it for me is to also have normalcy. It's like, it sounds very off the wall to share this, but in a way, maybe I can have a normal life now, and I'm not going to carry the burden anymore. I'm not going to, it's like I'm just kind of handing it over.
Yeah, you're right. I knew that, excuse me, I knew that putting a stop to me was being planned for lifetimes, and it was ancient. I knew I was being targeted, so I never felt like a victim, more a warrior who refused to be defeated.
Yeah. Right, so it's like, it's so true. And I would keep on going if I had to, but, you know, I mean, I would hope that soon I can, I have no concept of what it means to really relax and really ground, and it's not because I want to be on vacation. It's because I know if I do that, if I'm just allowed to have peace and support, and people are really aware of this, and the truth is out about these technologies and about Mars and all this kind of stuff, all this energy will just settle in, and 94% that is just unable to come onto this planet is going to be able to come. Because when somebody's all stressed and they're always looking over their shoulder and one thing after another, and everybody they're meeting is behind some sort of agenda or is being chipped, or it's just, I've never, you know, this is one of the first years in my life that I've been around my allies and my family who have stayed clear and who have served, you know, this in themselves. And it's like, to be able to meet everybody that have stayed this strong, I mean, it's just like, I told you the other day, you're my hero. So it's like, it's just huge. I mean, I'm just having love shared between people is a huge victory. You know, just to feel community again. I haven't felt that in a long time. So, but I really do know that if I can just relax and I'm not in danger anymore, an immense amount of energy is going to come into this planet that has not been here at all. And it's going to come through a lot of females, not just me.
So do you feel something?
And men, sorry.
Yeah. So you have mentioned something special about the year 2011. So how do you feel about that?
Well, 2011. Well, I mentioned that my birthday and year added up to that, and you know, I know things are really going to accelerate at that point, and we're really on the threshold. I mean, we've already started the shift, but you know, around that time we're really going to be on the cusp of. Kind of like, you know, how a teacher says, well, by 6th grade, we really know, you know, if a child's going to be into high school and if they're going to really succeed. You know, when it comes to this year and next year, this is when we're really going to know, like, what is left, what do we need to do. You know, we all are awake now and fully, you know, on target. So as this year and the next year rolls around, we're going to have a really clear idea of, like, okay, what needs to happen. I know there's going to be a lot more teamwork. So around 2011, it's just going to be clear, you know, what obstacles are left, and they're going to stand out like sore thumbs. They're not going to be sort of unconscious things that we give our power to that we don't notice anymore. We're really going to be empowering what's been hidden, and it's just going to expose, like, and bust everything that's not working. So around 2011, I just see all of that getting stripped away and just, you know, really cleaning up. And like I said, the planet in a way is detoxing from all these technologies, but they need to be located and destroyed. And energetically, we can do it through whistleblowing. And like I said, my dream, there's only a few that I trust. You know, a lot of them are just wacko dreams, but there's a few that are so darn obvious to me and profound that have saved my life. So, you know, energetically, we've got it covered with just the truth. But, you know, it would be, you know, we can dismantle this technology just through the power of our beings alone, but it might not hurt to just locate them and investigate the names that I mentioned to, you know, I mean, it's a crime to humanity. I'm not saying that, I mean, I'm not here to punish. I'm here to forgive, but, you know, these things need to be located.
Yeah, sure. We just finished recording, and it'll be broadcast on Monday, February 8th, an in-depth program with independent scientist Loren Murray, who's done a whole series for us on HARP, weather modification, and earthquakes, that the Haiti earthquake was triggered by HARP, and that with HARP as a weapon of mass destruction, and more people died there than in the Hiroshima bombs. So these things are still being used in a very real way.
Right, exactly. So, that's really, I mean, I would say there's the, 2011 and 2012 thing. I think our next step is to really just get these really just bring that awareness out there and find some sort of, I mean, I'm always trying to create councils and groups and think tanks and strategies to nail this. And I have very limited contact with people that are in this field that know all about it. And it would really be wonderful if I could have more contact with them, because, there has to be just, these things need to.
Well, how can people contact you? Would it be best you're going to be creating new pages on Facebook? I know you've mentioned that.
Yeah. And then I have if one just goes to my friend's page, the name I use is Laura Magdalena. Got all my contact information just on that friend's page. And I'm just, I'm on it a lot. I think what I feel, there's this sense of when one's intuition is being disturbed because something's not happening that should be happening. All I know that my intuition is telling me is that those who understand these technologies and know that they're out there that, can assist me and we can all assist each other in investigating the names that I've mentioned, knowing that the names I mentioned are the grandfathers of these technologies and are behind them, or at least were. They destroyed all evidence of it. And then, find some way to locate them and use the powers in GC and the connections that I have there to just do something about it. I mean, I have all the faith in the world that on an energetic level we can defeat all of this, but I don't think we can survive another disaster. It's beyond devastating for all of us. It's beyond devastating times 1,000 to experience it. It's unimaginable what these people must be going through, and that was the biggest wake up call, especially knowing this is not part of the Gaia. This is not part of nature's will. It's not, and it needs to be dismantled. It's too much to ask that we all energetically step up to the plate, because we can't expect everybody to do that. There's so many patterns and ancestral patterns, and it's not enough. I mean, we have to tackle this immediately, just for the sake of we don't want any of our fellow humans to suffer. A lot of us will be okay, but there can't be any more of this. It's just, there can't be, especially if we know that something's out there that's triggering this. So I would say that's the first step, and then just to continue with just this opening up of an awareness of the Venus energy, the transits, the timeline that is secured, but even more so in numbers if others can just tune their being into it and release the imprint of the other timelines that keep one locked in fear and a self-fulfilling prophecy to follow something that's already kind of dead but still has power. On the larger proportions, it doesn't hold much weight, but it's still affecting individuals. And there is still, major I mean, I sound really confident that there is no doom coming, and there isn't, but there's a lot of cleanup to do. There's a lot of busting and exposing, and it's just, there's no doom because we're all meeting each other now, but we got a lot of work to do, I guess is what I mean.
Right. Well, there are about 5 minutes left in this segment, which has really flown by, and you've talked a lot. You've talked even about reaching out to Obama and beginning to act at the presidential and even maybe at the world level with, as support gains. You've talked about 2011 and 12, and of course the time acceleration matrix says, well, as of October 28th, 2011, there is no more time, and also this portal of energy that you're talking about, the Stargate that's opening. So, just in these last five minutes or so, if you could give us just a vision of where you'd like to see things going over the next year or two?
As shy as I am, I know I need to speak a lot. I know I need to share a lot. I know I need to listen to, there needs to be things like Awake and Aware conference. I want to be able to, just create more unified forums to just talk about our experiences and what's happening and have strategic councils I'm not far away from Obama as far as my family's concerned, but I know that because it's a family energy, I need more support in order to convince those that are close by to it, to allow me access. This is not going to be that hard. So what I'd like to see is just an acceleration of reaching a goal and not just letting it dwindle and not saying, okay, well, that was nice what you, we're running out of time. It's kind of like, I'm really here to speak because we are running out of time. And this is a very crucial missing link to a successful outcome. I wouldn't speak unless that was the case. So, what I'd like to see is that this really gets just injected into those that are doing similar work in a way that's proactive and ready to just not stop until we complete what needs to be done. We don't have any room for, anything else. We need to take care of ourselves too, so there's a balance, We don't want to overwork ourselves. We don't want to stress ourselves out, so I trust the flow, and I'm not ever going to say it's not going right, but I might bring up, well, my intuition's going a little berserk and something's got to happen here based on the natural rhythm of things. But we also need to just really get in touch with what society doesn't give us a lot of time for, which is, what is that divine spark about? Where have we been giving our power and our energy? And, are we really allowed to just empower ourselves and recognize that God is not out there, but it's in us, and that, Earth is not a resource, it's an organism, and there's a personification of it. There's a goddess and all women are goddesses, and all men are, it's like we're all this. This is something that's our reality, and we're robbed from that information. So, I just see that a lot needs to be just empowered and reminded, and these sort of messages just have to be said over and over again, because a lot wants to trick us and take us away from that, and they don't have much power left, but they're going to certainly use what they can to create a lot of fear. And when fear is created, we're blocked. So, the lack of fear and the total awareness of being in the now and having what we have and giving our energy to ourselves instead of other powers is really where we need to focus ourselves. Because right now, if we all turn the lights on, we'd be fine. So, and that's really what the focus needs to be. Is to really look at this stuff and how can we keep that alive and stay focused. And also create strategies to nail these negative technologies and, really understand the Mars thing more. Even though, I believe I broke a certain timeline, I'm never going to assume. So, investigation strategies and empowerment of the sacred gene within us and the understanding of, what religion has failed to communicate. We don't really need religion as much as we need to understand that we are the temple and we are God, Goddess within, and we have the creative ability, each as individuals, to do exactly what we need to do, which would make it a lot easier for me to bring an immense amount of energy in that we're all going to do together, but I can, I have a certain sense of something that others might not be aware of that needs to be taken seriously. Really does need to be taken seriously. Sometimes I don't take myself seriously, but so this is me saying you got to take it seriously, because I certainly don't say it lightly, and it's pretty serious. I have charts. There's a person here in California that I've got many people that'll back me up with all sorts of proof and validation of what I'm saying. So I've gathered enough of that to feel like I can have a voice without, feeling like, oh, I don't have any backup. Well, I do.
Well, I would urge our listening audience, you can refer to a very in-depth article that Laura has written, which we're linking to at exopolitics.com, which is also available at Laura's website. Again, if you'd like to mention that.
Yes, CosmicGaia2012.com. And my name's Laura Magdalena. You can find me on Facebook. And I'm a very interactive person, and I'm not very, I really interact. So I'm open to questions, skepticism, you name it. I'm ready for all of it. And I know this is a lot to swallow, and I expect that there's going to be a lot of, questions, but there's a lot out there already that says and validates this, so look out for it and learn about some of the things I mentioned, because it's out there too, but I'm a good person to come to as well because I am available to the best that I can be.
Well, we really want to thank you for being with us over the last couple of hours, and this is really and for bringing us a message that has very, very rarely been heard. In fact, I think is just beginning to be heard now, and that you can always count on Exopolitics Radio to allow you, to give you a voice to get this important message out. So we look forward to your appearing with us in the future as all of this begins to unfold in an accelerating manner.
Wonderful.
We've been with Laura Magdalena Eisenhower. This is Exopolitics Radio. I'm your host, Alfred Weber. May you have a wonderful and miracle-filled day. Thank you.